we're going to move on to our last challenge group, which is Mars exploration. And we're going to start off with how medicine and Mars exploration can go hand in hand. And the team's challenge was to design a method, system, or device that can solve how doctors can conduct surgery in zero gravity. So it was a pretty interesting challenge, and let's see what these teams have come up with.
So our idea for the Mars challenge is containing uncongealed human liquids in a surgical system, and the team members are Nadine, Adrima, Arya, and Sarika.
The problem. The possibility of colonizing Mars and traveling to deep space is likely. However, it is also likely that an astronaut may wind up getting injured during the journey and may need surgery. How are doctors on board able to conduct surgery on patients in zero gravity where things are either strapped down or floating around? Simple things such as brushing your teeth or going to the restroom are complicated enough in space. But surgery? We need to be able to design a device or a system that will aid surgeons in space and make their job a little bit easier.
Together, we came up with a few questions that helped us in our research. How will we stop blood from floating everywhere in a room during surgery? How does microgravity affect the blood flow in a human body? Where will the excess blood and waste go after the surgery? And is it possible to create a temporary anti-gravity field using the centripetal force?
When researching about surgical techniques, we found out about the intraoperative self-salvage machine, which collects lost blood, washes it, and allows us to return it back into the patient. Medications, vitamins, and nutritional supplements, which increase the body's ability to carry oxygen, and when taken before surgery can increase the number of red blood cells. Hemodilution, which dilutes the blood before surgery, so that when blood is lost, the impact on the body is lessened. And the AISS, which is a hermetically sealed, fluid-filled, sterile solution surgical enclosure. It will prevent the blood from escaping a patient's wounds. It applies suction directly to the hemorrhage and also achieves hemostasis. And in researching about microgravity, we found that by using acceleration, you create inertial forces such as centripetal force. If the acceleration is held constant and at the right value, the inertial force will behave identically to Earth's gravity. However, this is only achieved through rotating at a constant speed, such as a ship. Realistically, we couldn't recreate this in a pod or a room.
Our solution is a pod inspired by the AISS, which is the aqueous submersion surgical system. We have suction sleeves that move left to right and are designed so that it will wrap tight around the surgeon's arms. The entry is movable and airtight. It's also double layered to prevent any leaks. We're using a suction inlet to secure any remaining blood or human waste, and the pod will also store and gather or filter it for later use. A sterile solution will be released, which will prevent the body fluids from escaping the patient's wounds. The pod will also prevent any contamination and allow surgeons to operate freely and see clearly.
This is a picture of our infographic.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. I love the drawing at the end. Okay, the next presentation is going to be on another team from the medicine and healthcare technologies track, so you guys can go ahead.
All right. Humans get into medical accidents all the time on Earth, so of course it'll happen on Mars too. For example, if an astronaut goes outside to do research and winds up in an accident, how do you perform surgery in zero gravity? Luckily, our team, Sarina Gandhi, Rhea Gossain, and Grace Marchand, have come up with a solution, the Zero-G Infirmary. Alright, so imagine you're an astronaut 5 months into a mission to reach Mars, and one day you begin to feel a stabbing pain in your abdomen. You've got appendicitis, which is a condition that can be fatal if ignored. You need immediate surgery to remove your appendix, but you're stuck in zero gravity without a place to be operated on. What can you do?
We started off this idea by doing some background research on the various topics listed on the screen. Tools needed. We learned that some surgical instruments are classified by their functions, which include cutting and dissecting, grasping and holding, exposing and retracting, sectioning and viewing, and many more. Some important surgical instruments include knives and scissors that have different sizes, shapes, and handle lengths. After that, we did some research on what kind of surgery has been done on space before, and we learned that they have done it on rats. Doing this, however, we learned that keyhole surgery is a big part of this because During open surgery, the intestines and bloods would float around, and that would obscure the view of the surgical field. And to deal with this, space travelers would opt for minimally invasive surgical techniques, such as keyhole surgery. Another thing that has been done is because the surgeries carried out in space have revealed that a large amount of equipment is essential, and the crew doesn't necessarily have the luxury to be able to do this. So it has been suggested that 3D printers can bring materials with them and print the materials out in space. Robotic surgery is another option that has been used routinely on Earth and been tested. An example of this would be NEMO 7, which stands for NASA Extreme Environment Missions Operation Expedition, and it was used in Aquarius in Florida Keys, and it demonstrated and evaluated innovative remote technologies and procedures for remote surgery.
Our solution is to add a detachable medical clinic to the spaceship. This clinic will contain body part seatbelts, blood vacuums, space capsules, magnetic surgery tools, and magnetic space chairs. We have seatbelts that can be used, based on their size, to strap floating body parts and materials needed for surgery. The seatbelts are made out of a soft plastic to keep internal organs unharmed. The blood vacuum works by sucking up blood as it drifts into the air to prevent it from polluting space. This is done by having a robot measure the mass of the air around them. Like all hospitals, our hospital has a stretcher and a bed for patients to lie on as doctors do their surgery. The space capsule surrounds the bed, causing the patient to be completely sealed except for certain spots, which have holes in them. The certain spots are places where the patient needs to be treated, and they allow the patient to breathe. The surgery tools are connected to the table using magnets. This way, they're easy to pick up, but won't float around very quickly. The magnetic space chair is where doctors will sit while performing surgery. The chair will have seatbelts, preventing the doctor from flying all over the place. The chair is also connected to the ground using magnetism, allowing it to move around the patient. The surgeons on board will be trained and have tools accessible for doing the types of surgery that are most commonly needed. For example, appendicitis, taking out blood clots and broken bones. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I love the drawings in that one as well.